interstitial ramus and inferior cubic ramus. And of course, we have our obturator foramen over here. Opening for the urethra. So this muscle is the external urethral sphincter, or urogenital diaphragm. Like everything else, your favorite phrase in anatomy is also known as, so urogenital diaphragm, external urethral sphincter, or deep transverse perineal or perineal muscle. So that's covered up by this fascia right here, and on the model is seen right in here. Okay, kind of filling in that triangle of all this space here. So inferior to that now, we're going to find the erectile tissue structures. I want to give you that basis as a floor. So if we remove the skeletal muscle over that, we see this layer of fascia, and then we see the erectile tissue. Erectile tissue, as we'll talk about tomorrow in our reflex pathways, is found as a series of venous channels and arteries. Here's a cross-section of the penis. And the blood supply, the arterial blood supply into the penis under sexual stimulation during erection, that's our third E word, all right, causes an increase of blood flow as the smooth muscles of the arteries dilate, relax, and additional blood flows into the penis, and that collapses the thin-walled veins, which is how the blood would be leaving the penis. So if those veins are collapsed, they're not going to allow the blood to flow into them and out of the penis, and we have the turgidity or the erection as the penis increases in length and in diameter. Females, as we'll talk about next week, the same thing happens. It's just the clitoris is much shorter, and erectile tissue not as large in diameter. So there are two sets of components to this erectile tissue. The dorsal structure, the components of the penis, let me go back to this other diagram, are identified as dorsal components and ventral components. Now, in anatomical terminology, those are usually interchangeable, because if I was a four-legged animal, the dorsal surface would be what I have now as a posterior surface, and my ventral belly would be my anterior surface. In nerve tissue, we sometimes use it more for horizontal structures. And so that's named for the penis instead of being droopy as if it was erect. And so what would be the anterior corpus cavernosus structures are identified as dorsal, and the inferior ventral structure is identified in that aspect here. So where those erectile structures are attached to bone on either side on our rami, they are identified as the legs, or crus. Okay. So the lower extremity, the leg, is another name for that in the anatomical terminology section way back when, is crus. All right, calf is plural, but leg itself is crus. And then above the bone, where it's no longer attached to the bone, is called the body. So we have the legs supporting the body. And our Latin word for body is corpus, or corpora for plural. So I'm going to draw another view of this over here on the side. I'm going to be covering some of the symphysis pubis up. So the crus of the penis is what is attached to the ischial tuberosity.
How do you spell that?
C-U-R-C-R-U-S. Crura is plural. So this would be crus. Sounds like it means cross, but it's really leg. Crus of the penis, plural, two of them would be crura. So those would be these two structures here, which we don't see on our sagittal models because they're outside the point of section. Sagittal models are cut through the center here. We see these, but not these more lateral aspects. And then the two crura, this is what we're going to model next week, become free of the bone, wrong color, and are called the corpora cavernosa. Or corpus cavernosum being singular. So one is a corpus cavernosum. Down here it would be crus. Up here, corpus. Now, neither of these structures contain the urethra. Right? So in a sagittal section, we're looking at these two structures here. So these are the two corpora cavernosa when we're actually in the shaft of the penis. Then if we add the ventral component, that's the bulb of the penis, and this is where the urethra first enters the rectal tissue. And then it has a shaft that extends onto the ventral surface of the penis, and that is the corpus spongiosum, which is why we also call the penile urethra the spongy urethra. It's found within the corpus spongiosum. There's only one of those. So here would be the bulb, and all of this along here is corpus spongiosum. At its tip, it expands, forms a mushroom-like cap, and covers the corpora cavernosa. And this cap is known as the glans penis. That would be this structure right here. That is what is visible if the prepuce or the foreskin is pulled back, all right, or is exposed if you had a male circumcision and the foreskin is cut. If you go back to this image here, we're seeing the crus, the two corpora cavernosa, the bulb, and the corpus spongiosum expanding to form the glans penis. Okay? I want penis on the end of it, not just glans, because in the female we have the glans clitoris. I want you paying attention to whether we're looking at male or female. You would think I would be able to assume that you know that, But I've had this tagged on lab exams. This is a female pelvis. There's the uterus, and I've had students tell me those are testicles, testes. So I can't always make those assumptions. On the cadaver exams, when I was teaching the med school at Sac State, I've had students identify the vagina as a urethra on a sagittal section. Just being anxious and not following through and seeing whether it went to the bladder or went to the uterus. So I don't always make those assumptions.